Hey everybody, I'm back. We're back home after what felt like a excruciatingly long 3 days, but it was a phenomenal 3 days. I can't stress that enough. I'm really thankful for everything and the way everything went. It's just really, really good weekend. Obviously, we had a little baby girl, Evelyn, who was born Friday night at 10 o'clock. Geez, I'm sleep deprived and feeling pretty exhausted, but that's nothing compared to what Sam went through and is feeling now. She's an absolute queen. I mean, just girl boss, eternal goddess status. What she went through was by far the most incredible thing I've ever witnessed somebody in person go through. Not even close. I mean, I've always been someone that really admires people who do ultra marathons and Ironmans and just really intensive feats of physical strength and physical endurance. This is way the hell up there, if not tops off to one of the most hardcore things somebody can go through. We went in on Friday. She was having contractions in the morning, which was funny because the doctor was like, she was having them like 11 and 12 minutes apart. And the timing is all about when you go in, right? Because the closer the contractions are, that's like your signal to how close you are to actually getting to active labor, which is where you're pushing. And so she was at like 11 or 12 minutes apart. And so we called the hospital or the doctor and, let them know. And they're like, well, come in when the contractions are 5 to 7 minutes. And so we wait, and then they're 5 to 7 minutes. We go to the hospital. We go into like this room that's like triage-ish, if that's the word for it. It's the room where they evaluate you to see if you're going to like go into, if they're going to admit you into the hospital. And they're like, well, we really want those contractions to be more like 3 to 5 minutes apart, not 5 to 7. And we're like, okay. And they were kind of treating it like what she was experiencing was just not extreme enough, which was kind of funny. And they're like, well, we know it can be painful, but you just have to be patient. There's nothing we can do. And we're like, we're only here because we're following your instructions. So it's whatever. We were like, okay. So they were like, go for a walk. It can go really fast. It's your second child. So we go to the mall and we're walking around the mall of the Pheasant Lane Mall down in Nashua, because that's where the hospital is, because we live about 30 minutes away from the hospital. So we didn't want to come all the way back home only for it to progress really fast and go all the way back. So we're walking around the hospital. She's like having contractions. We're walking around the mall. She's having contractions at the mall. And we're like, well, this could go a long time because it's not really progressing fast. So let's go home, I guess. So we went home and it progressed. They got more painful. They got closer together. So finally we're in the 3 to 5 minute where they're averaging 3 to 5 minutes apart. And we're like, all right, it's go time. This is what they said. So we go back to the hospital, go back into the triage room. And they're like, well, we really want them to be like 2 to 3 minutes apart. Like, oh my God, what do you want? How in labor do you want this woman before you'll admit her into the hospital? And they're like, well, we'll come look. If she's dilated at this certain amount, then, we can take you in. Otherwise, maybe, we'll give you some pain meds and we can talk about some measures. And we're like, this isn't a pain thing. This is just tell us when we're supposed to come in and hold it to it. They're moving the goalpost. But they had the midwife come in and she was dilated enough. So they snapped. Suddenly it was like go mode and they moved us into the hospital really fast, into our hospital room. And she wanted an epidural, which is a PICC line of fentanyl that goes into your back, and it's a painkiller, obviously. And she wanted the epidural because she had that with Caden, and it helped tremendously. In fact, it was so powerful that they have you hooked up to these monitors so they can see on a graph where your contractions are happening. And the epidural was so powerful for Caden that the nurse had to tell her when her contractions were happening because she couldn't feel them that powerfully, so that she knew when to push. This time it was not the case, but they were going so fast. She's sitting there shaking in pain from these contractions, and they're like, we don't know if we can do the epidural. It's gonna happen really fast. We're putting in the order. They're gonna come in. They have to do all this stuff, and so they bring in this guy who runs the line into her back, which is kind of intense because you have to like sit in a certain way. You can't move because if they get it wrong, it can be super serious. And anyways, they get the PICC line, they lay on your back, it works with gravity where it like spreads down, your legs go numb, you can't move your legs anymore, there's tingling. But then after that, the pain, everything slowed way down, which is part of why one of the big reasons why people aside from the potential effects on your child, it can slow down labor. And so it really did slow it down, just because in seeing it, I do believe that there's some sort of feedback loop that's happening from the pain of the contractions that like works your body up into like, okay, we're gonna do this, like, well, let's go. And then suddenly you give it that drug, and it cuts that feedback of pain, and suddenly it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess we can just like chill out for a little bit. So that slowed things down a lot. But again, unlike Caden, where she really felt very, very, I don't want to say painless because it was still painful, but she felt way better all the way through the active birth. The pain ramped up. So I don't know if the dose was different, or if I don't know, something was different. So she was back up to being super incredible pain. In movies and stuff, always paint this picture that I see of like a woman in a hospital bed screaming during these contractions. That wasn't Sam's case at all. In fact, for some reason, what she went through felt worse to me, which was she was really composed, buckled over on her side, shaking during these contractions, and like slow breathing and just sweating. And like but after a super big contraction would happen, she'd lay on her back and like her eyes would be open, but there was nobody home. Like she was in another dimension. She was like not seeing, and you talk to her, and the delay between her response was huge. I kept likening it to, because it just felt like you were holding the hand of someone going through like an ego-breaking ayahuasca trip. Just this super intense experience. And the whole thing is like kind of stressful and, a little bit scary, because there's obviously so many risks. There was a time where childbirth was the biggest cause of death in women. For a long time, that was the case. And so there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So even though it's all going to be good, it's still just a scary experience. So you're just kind of worked up emotionally, and I'm just standing here watching this woman that I love, like, essentially being tortured, pushed to her absolute brim of like what she can handle from pain. And so I was all like, getting misty-eyed, just thinking about the emotions of what was happening, what was to come, what this all meant, what this was all for, what she was going through. And I was like, I said to her, I was like, at this point, you're doing so good, I would have tapped out at this point. And she just looks at me, she's like, yeah, well, you can't tap out. Like you this is it. This is the ride. And I'm like, yeah, damn, that is scary as hell. Like that is a very intense thing to have to come to terms with once you're in that situation. And all the nurses, frankly, were really impressed with how she was handling herself, because she was breathing through everything, and like, she was very quiet and just shaking. And her heartburn was so bad, because they had to lay her on her back because of the epidural. The heartburn was so bad, she just started vomiting. And we're like, can we get some Tums or something? Like, okay, yeah, we'll put in an order for Tums. We had some, but you can't, like, in a hospital, they have to control the whole experience, so you're not allowed to take your own medication, which totally makes sense. But like a 40 minutes goes by of her in incredible pain, going through these contractions, having this heartburn, this like reflux that's so intense that she's vomiting. And then finally, when they bring us the medication, they give her one single Tum tablet, which is a half of a normal dose for a guy who just like ate too much barbecue. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is what we've been waiting on. So it was like, obviously it was just absolutely worthless, but everyone there was great, and the experience was great, but that was just a really funny moment. So anyways, finally she gets to a point where they're like, all right, this is go time. And she goes into active labor where she's pushing. And from that point to when Evelyn was out and born was like 10 minutes. I mean, it was so fast, which is common with second births, but it was just incredible. And I mean, it was intimidating. There's like 5 different nurses in the room, and they all have different jobs, and it's just like, they're going and going and going. But what's funny is in between her contractions, because you can only push during the contractions, in between those, which there can be like, a minute or so between, all the doctors are just like, yeah, you got it. And they're like, okay, all right, you got to do one more. Are you on for tomorrow, or is Beck? No, yeah, you have off and Becky's on. So, okay, let's go. All right, let's go. And it's like this, for them, it's a job. They do this every day, multiple times a day. But for you, it's like, this is the biggest moment of my life. And for them, like, yeah, they're just thinking about what's for dinner tomorrow, which is kind of grounding too in the experience. But she was born super healthy. Everything was perfect. Sam was perfect. It could not have gone more textbook. Her blood work, everything. She lost like very little blood through the experience. She came up aces on all that kind of stuff, and it was a good scoreboard. And so then basically you just sit in the hospital for 24 to 48 hours, depending on if there's anything that comes up, where they just monitor everybody's vitals and come check on the baby. And like felt like every hour there's just somebody coming into the room all night long to like take blood pressure. Oh, I'm here to give the baby a bath. Oh, I'm here to snip this. Oh, I'm here to put these on. Or, oh, I'm here to check this. And it's like 1:30 in the morning and someone's like, hi, I'm the lactation consultant. And you're like, dude, I just want to get we're just trying to sleep in here, you know? So you're more like sleep deprived from that than you are from any kind of baby crying. Because once they come out, they're just like sleep mode. They're, there's not even any breast milk involved because that stuff hasn't even started yet. They're just like in full recovery because it's a very traumatic experience physically for the baby too. So the most sleep depriving part was just the freaking staff coming in. But what they're doing serves a very important role. It's just they work on a different timeline than like, oh, we'll see at 6 a.m. It's like, no, we'll be here in 3 hours and this person will be here in 2 hours. So whenever you give birth, it's like, doesn't matter where you are on the clock. Like this stuff has to happen at these increments. And you're logging every time she feeds, you're logging every time she poops, you're logging every time she pees. You're just keeping track of everything. So it's like, it's a very clockwork logistics experience from top to bottom. And, you're just hanging out in a hospital room, which is at first felt kind of fun because it's like a weird pseudo hotel. I mean, a lot of people have been in hospitals, you know what it's like, but but then by this morning, we were like, by yesterday morning, honestly, after the morning after she gave birth, we were like, okay, so we can go, right? Like everything's good, everyone feels fine. Sam was like, sore and all the regular stuff, but she was ready to rock. We just missed Caden. We wanted to get home and do all that. And they're like, okay, well, you'll leave tomorrow morning. Like, fuck. And then so this morning they're like, did you want to leave today? Or you were expecting to stay one more night, right? And we're like, no, not unless we have to. So we kind of pushed for it. Anyways, we left. I was going freaking stir crazy in there. Just because, especially as the father, it's like I am not like, Sam is just went through battle, she's recovering, and obviously that I get, but to be totally honest, I'm over here with 100% energy, just like, all right, here we go, let's sit on this bed and watch another episode of this show, I guess, on this horrible Wi-Fi where nothing buffers. So it feels a little bit like prison, and Sam kind of felt the same way too, because with our first child, it's like I remember I kept saying, I can't believe you can just have a baby and you don't need any license. I don't need any certification. I don't have to take a test. Like, they just give you a baby and they're like, okay, have fun. This time around, you're like, I can't believe they won't just let me take this baby out of here, because they're coming in here and they're like giving you tips, and it's like, I got it. Like, we just want to go home and sit in our own house with our own bed and our own stuff with our son and just be our little family and recover there. But and I understand why they don't let you do that. Like, all those rules and precautions serve an extremely important role, but the shift of mentality from your first to your second child is definitely different. You've definitely done this before, so we were very anxious to get home, and we got home. So Caden's been awesome with her. He is very excited. He loves to talk about her and ask questions and stuff, but he doesn't really know, like, physically the physicality of I think he's a little intimidated by how she looks. We keep saying, do you want to pet her hair? Do you want to come touch her cheek? And he's like, well, I think I just need to go play with my monster trucks. We're like, okay, yeah, it's all good. So, he'll come around. It's new for him, but otherwise he's really good. Right now, Sam's putting Caden down, and he wanted Evie to come, and so that's an important thing. I'm kind of on call. I'm just watching in case she needs backup, but I think that's her special thing with Caden, and she was really missing that, and so it's cool that she gets to have that. It's cool that we all get to do these things together now, so it's really fun, and I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks now that I have some time off, and we're just gonna focus on family, and everything kind of takes a back seat. We're just moving in slow motion on baby time, which I remember with Caden was one of the most beautiful golden eras of my life, was those first few weeks with him when they're newborn. There's just something really magic and special about that. And so this time to do it with another little one, with your first one that you love with all your heart is a cool melding. And the love for your children is by far the most powerful and dominating emotion and just experience that a human really is built for. I mean, if it wasn't that, none of us would be here. You know what I mean? Like, it has to take priority over everything else. So your own chemistry just goes wild with it, and we're just enjoying being on that endorphin high of living in this high peak of family and stuff. So everything video wise, I don't know, it's gonna kind of take the backseat. I don't know, I haven't figured it out, but so there's probably gonna be baby content or just random little things to upload to keep the streak going, but otherwise just relaxing and taking it all slow and enjoying every moment of it, because this is the last time, really. I mean, this is the last time I'll experience this. We don't plan to have more. So yeah, it was nice. It was really cool. One for the history books, for sure. A moment, an experience I will certainly never forget. But thanks to everyone for all the congratulations and the condolences, and thank you very much. Or condolences? Does condolences just mean sad? Or condolences is just sad. So, I don't know. Thanks for the nice things that you said.